Hey everyone, ahlan wa sahlan fikum. Welcome back for another annotated transcript video. Haven't done one of these for maybe a month or two. And yeah, this one today is not very long, so it's just going to be all in one part. Hopefully, it won't be too long. I'm going to try to be a little bit quicker now, since probably if you're watching this one and you've watched the other ones, then you're probably at a pretty good level now, hopefully. So, yeah, let's take a look at what it's about. First of all, it's called Dalil al-Batra. So, Dalil is a guide, and Batra is Petra in Jordan. So, it's actually about a little kid who I guess is kind of a tour guide in Petra, and he sings. So I guess he became kind of famous for singing a little bit. And it's actually a little mini few minute documentary by Al Jazeera about this little kid. So it's like a little interview, which is also going to be interesting because it's more of a narrative form. Whereas the videos that we've been watching are usually, like scenes and it's like a little situation and that kind of thing. But what we have today is more like just a little personal narrative. So it's kind of different. Now, there's a couple things to point out just before we get started. It's that, first of all, he's like truly, this is like straight up Bedouin kind of speech in some ways. I mean, it's completely understandable, but there's a couple of things that are different or like terms that are not used elsewhere. I will flag them, but I think it'll generally be pretty understandable. But it's definitely like, this is for sure like Jordanian Arabic. Insofar as there's any difference between Palestinian and Jordanian, which is not very much, this is definitely Jordanian Arabic. But yeah, still, it'll be interesting. Some of the stuff, like, it makes more sense in the video because there's like a lot of kind of cuts. So there's a sentence about this, and then the topic kind of changes a little bit, but that's totally fine. Anyway, what you should always do in any case is go and watch the original video and then come watch the transcript, or vice versa, then watch it after, or that kind of thing. So as I've been doing recently, I'm just gonna read through it like, I'm just gonna go through it line by line instead of reading the whole thing once, because if you just want to hear what it sounds like in reality, you can just go and watch the video. So instead, I'm gonna go through it line by line, and yeah, let's basically just get started. So Dalil al-Batra, the Petra tour guide. So he starts saying, this little boy starts saying, كنت أغني بالخفية وأهلي ما بدروا. So the first thing is that this word dara, this is already we're coming in, we're running into an interesting word. So obviously obviously, I suppose you know the word eref, which means to know. But this is the main word for know, but in Jordan, I guess there's like an alternative word. I'm not really sure how widespread it is, but the word is dara. And so bidru, so homme or ahli ma bidru, my parents don't know. It's like ahli ma be'rafu. I wrote the kind of standard way of saying it here. So ahli ma be'rafu, my parents don't know. Ahli ma bidru, my parents don't know. As I said, I don't really know exactly how widespread it is to say dara in Jordan. But what I can say that's interesting about this word is that the active participle of dara would be dari, right? And dari is part of the expression, which is very common in Jordan for sure among everyone, and even some people in Palestine have picked it up, which is the expression andari. So andari is like saying, like, how am I supposed to know? Or like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. I have no clue. And it's a shortened form of ana dari. So ana dari is like saying ana arif, or like I'm knowing. So it's like saying, do I know? That kind of thing. But it's always shortened to this like andari. It's not anadari anymore, really. But apparently, it's possible to say data, like to actually use data as a verb. He uses it. I had not really heard it before. Like I've, yeah, I don't think it's that common, but it's possible. And yeah, and another expression like andari, like what do I know, that kind of thing. What would be more kind of mainstream to say is shu ba'arifni. So arif means to know. Arraf in form 2 is to make someone know something. So shu ba'arifni, what makes me know? So it's like saying literally, like, how am I supposed to know? What makes me know that? So it's another, like, that's more common to say, but you also have in Jordan and Dari, which is very common. And it's kind of the same idea. Do I know? Ana, Dari. So anyway, I just wanted to flag that because I was discussing it earlier with someone and it's kind of interesting. But yeah, let's actually look at the sentence. So كنت أغني بالخفية. كنت أغني, I was singing. بالخفية. This just means in secret. I guess the root is present in the verb اختفى, which means to disappear. So بالخفية is like in secret, I guess. Yeah, that's just a related word. اختفى meaning to disappear. But yeah, the actual word for secret is sir. Like كلمة السر is actually means the password, like my computer password. كلمة السر, even though literally it means the secret word, right? But that's the actual word for secret. But this is just a way of saying in secret, بالخفية. Now I already told you what أهل ما بدروا means, but I should probably flag this wow, because it has an important function in this sentence. This wow is not meaning and. This is not wow for and. There's another meaning for wow, or another usage of this wow, which is actually to link two actions like as happening simultaneously. And one thing that really hints that that's what's going on here is the use, well, actually in this case it's the same, so I won't even mention it. But the point is that, yeah, so you could read this as I was singing in secret and my parents weren't knowing. But that's actually not the best translation. This wow is to say that these two actions were happening at the same time. So in this case, the translation would be I was singing in secrets. I was singing in secret while my parents didn't know. So without my parents knowing. So this wow can be translated as while. Like, let's say, for example, ودع عيلتي وأنا صغير. ودع عيلتي. So ودع is the situation. عيلتي is my family. So it's like my family situation. I just said something random, but let's say my family situation. وأنا صغير. It doesn't mean my family situation and I was little, or and I'm little, in fact. But rather it means my family situation when I was little. So this wow could be translated as like when or while, when it links like two actions happening at the same time. It's a little bit tricky, like you just kind of have to get used to it, because in the beginning you're gonna want to think that it's like meaning and, but it doesn't. And what I was gonna say earlier is that it's especially clear that this is the function of wow, that it's setting up this simultaneous action. If you see the repetition or like the use of a pronoun, which normally in Arabic you don't use the pronouns because they're kind of redundant. So for example, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like it's always going to be like wana, huwa, like it means like while I or while he is doing something, even if normally you wouldn't use the article. Like ana, like ba'arif or ana ba'arif, it's the same thing. You don't have to say ana. But when you use wow in this way, you do have to use it. You know what's a good example? The expression like I have been doing something for this amount of time. You know, the way that we say this, like I have been studying Arabic for 2 years, it would be صار لي سنتين, 2 years happened to me, so to speak, وأنا بدرس عربي. So صار لي سنتين وأنا بدرس عربي. This doesn't mean 2 years passed and I study Arabic. It means 2 years passed while I was studying Arabic. While. So وأنا. And it must have the ana. You can't say, if you said صار لي سنتين وبدرس عربي, this means 2 years passed and I study Arabic. That actually means I study Arabic. If you just say وبدرس عربي. So if you say وأنا, that's really setting up this kind of simultaneous action clause. وأنا بدرس عربي. So 2 years passed and I study Arabic. The wow links them as happening at the same time. That's probably going to be the biggest takeaway for today, because it's in the first sentence, but I think it was worth mentioning. So anyway, let's do the rest. So I used to sing in secret without my parents knowing. لما يطلعوا أهلي من البيت كنت أغني. لما, when my parents leave the house. Although he's talking like in the past tense, like in this kind of narrative voice. So when my parents would leave the house, من البيت يطلعوا من البيت طلع to leave. So when my parents were leaving the house كنت أغني, I was singing. أول ما عرفوا أهلي إني بغني صاروا يشجعوني. So شجع means to encourage. That's it. So صاروا يشجعوني. Remember that صار can mean to start doing something. So they started to يشجعوني, to encourage me. And as for this initial part, remember, so of course أول means first. But this word ما, it can be negation, but as I mentioned in my video on ما, it also links like certain words, especially prepositions, to a verbal phrase. So بعد, after. But if you want to say after I did something, because there's a verb that comes after, you need to use ما to link the preposition to the rest. So بعد ما طلعت من البيت, after I left the house. قبل, before. You know, قبل يومين, 2 days ago, before 2 days. بس قبل ما أطلع من البيت, before ما I leave the house. The ما links. So in this case, it's linking أول, first, with عرفوا, they knew. So it's actually a little bit idiomatic, like it's doesn't translate perfectly in English, but it's saying as soon as. أول ما عرفوا, the first thing on knowing. So the first thing that they did when they knew. So as soon as they knew أهلي إني بغني, that I sing, they started to encourage me. Okay? من بعدها اتشجعت وصرت أغني. So after that, من بعدها, from after it, اتشجعت. So شجع means to encourage. اتشجع in form 5. So شجع is in form 2. You're doing something to someone else. And اتشجع is form 5, which is when you kind of, it's sort of passive or intransitive, like when you just do the action to yourself or there's no like object for the action. So it's just I became encouraged. Yeah, I was encouraged. After that, so من بعدها, after that, I was encouraged and صرت أغني. I started to sing. صاروا يشجعوني, they started to encourage me. صرت أغني, I started to sing. Then there's like a little skip. أنا اسمي حماد حسين, عمري 12 سنة. So my name is Hamad Hussein. عمري 12 سنة. My age is 12 years. That's how you say I'm 12 years old. بالنسبة إلي باللغات اللي تعلمتها بالبتراء إنجليزي وشوية فرنسي. So بالنسبة إلى is like with regard to, but as I said, I mean, this is like him just talking, and he's like a 12-year-old, and but even adults do this. But like sometimes we don't speak in a very logical way, like if you put it in writing. But what he's saying, like literally, is with regards to me, to the languages that I speak. Like really, it should be like بالنسبة إلى اللغات rather than بالنسبة إلي. Well, no, I guess it makes sense. The point is just like, as for the languages that I, right, بالنسبة إلي, with regard to me, with regard to the languages that I speak, or rather اللي تعلمتها بالبتراء, اللي, that, or which, اللغات اللي تعلمتها بالبتراء, the languages that I learned in Petra, English, and a little bit of French. Maybe here I'll mention something else, which is the difference between شوي and شوية, which may stand out for some, but what is important to know about this is شوي, of course, it's a very common word, right? Like, I don't know, anything. Like, it just means a little bit, right? Or a little, like, بدي أرتاح شوي. I want to rest or relax a little bit, right? But شوية is, so شوي is like an adverb. It means a little, like, as a modification of the action, like rest a little bit. It's kind of hard to explain in English, or like to give a perfect parallel in English, because شوية with the tamarbuta also means a little, but it's more like an actual quantity. So شوية is used as a kind of measurable quantity, and شوي is more of like an adverb saying doing a little bit of something. let's just say that شوي is more for actions and verbs, and شوية with tamarbuta is more for like actual measurable things. So شوية فرنسي, a little bit of French. Not really شوي فرنسي. That means a little French, as in like هو شكله شوي فرنسي, like he looks a little French. هيك. So it's like that, kind of changing it's like referring to the amount of a quality or an action versus شوية فرنسي, it means a little bit of French. Let's say a little bit rather than just a little. مثلا بدي أشرب شوية مي. I want to drink a little bit of water. شوية مي. Not really شوي مي. That means it's just a little bit off. So شوي versus شوية. And remember that with tamarbuta, when you put something after, like شوية فرنسي, there must be the ta. شوي فرنسي, a little French. شوية فرنسي, a little bit of French. So pay attention to that as well. Okay, next. تعلمت اللغات هذه. I learned the languages these. It's just words get kind of like, you can say هذه اللغات also, or اللغات هذه. It doesn't really matter the word order. تعلمت اللغات هذه مع تعاملي مع السياح. So yeah, basically I learned these languages with my interaction. So تعامل means to interact as a verb, and تعامل is the verbal noun. It's the masdar of تعامل, which means to interact. So تعامل with dhamma is interaction. And all of the form 6 verbs like تعامل or تحارب or I don't know, they all have this form. All of the verbal nouns, it's basically the same exact word as the verb itself, but with dhamma, like ta'amul. Let's say ta'ayash means to coexist, and ta'ayosh is coexistence. So this dhamma is just noting it. It's the only difference between the verb itself and the noun form. So I learned these languages with my interaction مع السياح. Siyah is tourists. So with my interaction with tourists. And then he says أنا بشتغل, I work. لما أشوف سياح, when I see tourists, بدهم مساعدة, they want help. بساعدهم, I help them. I want to mention one thing here, which I've mentioned before, but just in case. We have the word illi, meaning that or which, like اللغات اللي تعلمتها, the languages that اللي تعلمتها, that I learned. But illi is actually only used with definite things. So اللغات, the languages that اللي تعلمتها. But when you have something indefinite, so something, indefinite, something that doesn't have an article or something like that, then actually it's the same syntax, but illi is missing, which can be a little bit tricky if you're still learning Arabic and it's kind of like it sounds weird in English because it feels like something is missing, but in Arabic, no. So when I see سياح بدهم مساعدة, this means tourists who need help, tourists that need help. But in English, we say tourists that need help or tourists who need help. We do use this word. You can't say tourists need help because that's a sentence. Tourists need help, that's a sentence. But in Arabic, سياح بدهم مساعدة means tourists who need help, because it's the same exact syntax, like phrasing, as اللغات اللي تعلمتها, the languages that I learned, but we use illi here because it's definite, the languages. But here, it's just tourists, not the tourists. If it was the tourists, it would be السياح اللي بدهم مساعدة, the tourists that need help. In this case, because it's the tourists, it would be السياح اللي. But if it's سياح, then there's no illi, there's no anything. سياح بدهم مساعدة. Tourists need help. And that's it. So, recording check to make sure. Yes, we are. Okay. So I work, and when I see tourists who, quote unquote, it's not present in Arabic, but that's what it means. Tourists who need help, I help them. بشوف, I hope you can see this. بشوفوا المنطقة الأثرية. So they see the archaeological area. منطقة is منطقة, area. I think he was, I think they were cutting some things or something because it seems a little bit strange somehow, the phrasing, but I don't know. And then he says بوريهم المنطقة الأثرية زي دليل صغير. So, I had not heard this form ورا to mean show, but it makes sense. Like, so I will say why. The word to show that is the most common is farja. So farjini, show me. بفرجيهم. So I put it in parentheses. بفرجيهم, I show them. But there's another variant of farja, which is warja. Warjini. Farjini, warjini. Same thing. I don't know why, but so you can say it with waw. So there's farjini, or let's say farja, warja, and then he says warra. I never heard that, but yeah. So I guess in some parts you can also hear warra. So bawarrihum, I show them, but learn farja. That's the mainstream. So bawarrihum, yeah. So I show them the archaeological areas. زي دليل صغير. That's the name of the episode anyway. دليل صغير, or no, دليل البتراء. Anyway, دليل means guide, صغير means small, زي like, so like a little guide. Cool. Okay. عمي, my uncle, كان بدق على العود وبيغني. So my uncle كان بدق. He was actually, that means to knock, and it's well. There's another verb for playing an instrument, which is azaf, but do or that can also be used. So I think especially for things that you like actually knock, azaf is maybe for like a guitar, I guess. But oud is like a guitar also. So I found it a little bit strange, but I mean, I don't know. It's not really that restricted, like it must be this word or that word. Definitely something like a piano, بدق al piano, because you're like knocking the keys, right? Although I think you can also say azaf. Anyway, these two words are for playing instruments, azaf and da. So if you wanted to say literally, he was knocking the oud and bigani and singing. Yeah. So oh yeah, and it's worth noting that the use of can, it can be like a past continuous action, like he was playing the oud, or it can also be like he used to play the oud. It's like the same in Arabic, but it's like in the present tense. If I say أنا باكل, it can mean either, depending on the sentence, it can mean either I'm eating, أنا باكل هلا, I'm eating, or أنا, I don't know, أنا باكل حلويات, I don't know, like I eat sweets or whatever. It can mean, that's more, depending on the sentence, it can be more of a habitual action. So either I'm eating right now, or I always eat something. And in the past, it's the same. كنت آكل, or yeah, so I was eating, can be either I was eating, like I am eating, I was eating, or I regularly eat, or I used to eat. Do you see? So the continuous and the habitual meaning in the present is the same also in the past. They're also the same. In the present, they're the same. In the past, they're the same. So عمي كان عمي كان بدق على العود وبغني. My uncle was playing the oud and singing. فتعلمت, so I learned منه الغناء. So I learned from him the singing. And notice this, it's not a big thing or anything, but there's this letter fa, and I use it a lot, but it just means like in English, the way that we say so this. It's just like a quick transition word somehow. It has, it technically, it kind of has some grammatical uses, but at the same time, it's just something that people just throw out there like yani in a way. So in this case, yeah, see, I just said so. It's kind of like that. فَتَعَلَّمْتُ مِنُّ الْغَنَى. So my uncle used to play the oud, so I learned singing from him, basically. Okay. And often it gets attached to the word, so just notice that. Okay. كنت قاعد عند السي. See, now again, there's like a little bit of a cut. I think now probably the interviewer asked him, how did this all start? I guess, right? Because there's kind of a change of topic. So كنت قاعد عند السي. The sea is a place in Petra. So I was sitting عند is see. Remember that عند can be used with a suffix to be like عندي, like I have, or it can actually mean at a place. So عندي can either mean عندي تليفون, I have a phone, or تعال عندي. So تعال, come, عندي, my place, actually, where I'm at. So عند the sea is like at the sea, at the sea. So I was sitting at the sea. Fa, see this fa, in this case it doesn't make sense sort of logically, but it's just thrown around. So I was sitting at the seat, and Ija Isayeh. See, he's saying Isayeh, the tourist, but he hasn't really set up the story, so I guess they were probably chatting before, and then this is a continuation of a story that he was already telling. That's why it's kind of weird in a way. But yeah, so, and then the tourist came, right? And then the tourist came, صار يصور فيني. So, Sayeh, the tourist, صار يصور, he started to photograph or film, actually. So, surah is a picture. Sawwar is to take a picture of something, to photograph someone or something. Or film, right? So, صار يصور, he started to film. Fini. Like, fi means in, but it's not like film in me. Sometimes fi is used in other kind of phrases. So, sawwar or sawwar fini, he started to film me. I know it sounds kind of weird in English, but in Arabic, this is how you say it. Also, for example, fakkar, to think. Bafakkir fiik. It doesn't mean I think in you. It means I think about you, actually. So, it's really something to learn more on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, some verbs take fi as the preposition. So, I was sitting at Issi, and then the tourist came and he started filming in me. ما لديت زي هيك. And this is kind of weird, but I don't. To be honest, I think this is also some kind of alternative form of lafait. Lafait means to turn around. This is actually my kind of educated guess, because I think it's probably idiomatic to that region, or I don't know. So yeah, zehek, like this, and the ma is like I it's like before I said like awwal ma, right? So it's kind of like that, except there's nothing before. So it's more like how would I? It's very kind of hard to define, because ma has a lot of undefinable kind of meanings. One is to link things, right? And it also kind of like emphasizes the statement that you say after that, especially if it goes against like a sort of expectation. So like I was talking to someone like who was telling me that he's at the hospital, and I thought that he was sick, and he said ma ana badrus tib. So ma ana badrus tib. So I study medicine. The ma was like, I'm not at the hospital because I'm sick. Ma, like, but I study. It's just that I study medicine. I don't know. It just emphasizes. I made a video about this, so just watch that because I explained it better there. Basically, he's just saying like, oh, and as soon as I turn around, وإنه السياح, so and that the tourist, yeah, it's this kind of very natural speech can sometimes be hard to translate literally, because it's not like going according to all the rules and expectations that you think. It's the same way when people speak in any language, like it just kind of all gets funky. So, and that the tourists كلهم جايين بدهم يصوروا. So as soon as I turned around, or like when I turned, the tourists were all coming, جايين were all coming, بدهم يصوروا, wanting to film, right? Yeah, that's kind of the best I can translate it in a semi-literal way, and just make it make sense. Okay, another fa. فصرت أغني لهم وصاروا ينشروا. So, and I started to sing. So غنى, to sing. أغني to home أغني لهم singing to them وصاروا and they started to نشر means to post or to publish, so صاروا ينشروا, so they started to post basically like online. لما كل الناس صارت تعرفني. And again, لما, not what you would expect here, because لما is more like when something, like when, I don't know, when I went to the store, something. But actually, we even say this kind of thing in English, like when suddenly, right? Like it's kind of, it feels a little bit like that. Like it's, don't think about it too literally, right? It's just saying, so I started to sing to them and they started to post when eventually, or like until, but not literally until, but just like when then everyone started to know me. كل الناس, all people, صارت, they started to know me. صارت تعرفني. Notice that صارت and تعرف is in the feminine form, because nas is either feminine or can also be plural. It can be conjugated both ways. So in nas صاروا or in nas صارت, both are perfectly acceptable. Again, checking recording, yes. Yes, so they started posting, everyone started to know me, okay. And then there's another kind of scene change or change of topic, so to speak. أنا بقعد بالبيت بساعات. So I sit at home for hours, بساعات, basically. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else I want to mention up there. No, I guess not. So I sit at home for hours, but حفظ, I memorize. So yeah, like حفظ is to save. What else? حافظ is to maintain. تحفظ is to memorize. So بتحفظ على الأغنية. See, and again, here he's using the singular. I'm memorizing the song. I think maybe they were chatting about, or he was. There's parts that are kind of missing potentially, like, or I don't know. It's probably the kind of thing that makes more sense when you hear it, and it like feels more natural. But when you read it, it's the same. Like, probably if you had a transcript of my speech right now, it would be like not making that much sense. But that's actually why this kind of video is really good, because you can actually just take a look and analyze like how people actually speak. And sometimes it kind of behaves in unexpected ways, but that's normal. That's in any language. Versus the, like, the our family life and stuff, like the other videos, annotated transcripts that I make, those are really useful as well, for their own reasons, but they're scripted. This is basically unscripted because it's just this kid talking. So anyway, just noting that. So بتحفظ على الأغنية وعلى كلماتها واللفظ. So I memorize على الأغنية, at, like على, right? I memorize at the song. So yeah. So I memorize the song, and على كلماتها, words but meaning lyrics. I memorize the words, and اللفظ, so the pronunciation. Actually, لفظ can also be a verb. So like it can mean to pronounce something, like ممكن تلفظ هالكلمة, can you pronounce this word, or تلفظ. And لفظ is pronunciation as well, like as a noun. Anyway, then he says أكثر, and by the way, I think he says, if I recall correctly, I've left the th because he actually says th. And I think this is common in rural dialects, in rural speech. In the city, in like urban accents, it's just th, أكثر. But I've noticed in some of these Jordanian clips that people are saying th. أكثر أغنية, so just to flag that. So أكثر أغنية بحب أغنيها. And notice here again, so in English I would say the song, well, in English that is often optional, but let's say the song that I like to sing the most. But in Arabic it's not أغنية اللي بحب أغني. That's wrong, because it's not الأغنية. Well, it is a definite, well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting in the first place because what order do I want to explain this in? Um, okay. So first of all, I was talking about illi. The fact that it's not here because it's not الأغنية. So just أغنية بحب أغنيها, a song that I like to sing. So again, الأغنية اللي بحب أغنيها means the song that I like to sing. أغنية بحب أغنيها without اللي means a song that I like to sing. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because here actually this is definite. It's just that it doesn't have the article. And the reason it's definite is because of أكثر. So, which also sort of doesn't behave according to kind of like it's because it's like saying it seems like it's saying the most song أكثر أغنية, but the أكثر is actually in reference to the amount that you like to sing it. بحب أغنيها. But anyway, it's still at the beginning of the sentence because at the beginning of the phrase, the song I like to sing, because I don't know, the most is like marking it as the whole thing as the favorite, the song that I like to sing the most. In English, we put most at the end, but in Arabic, you can put it at the beginning. Yeah, sorry, this probably could have explained this better, but the one thing that I want to mention about akthar is that this phrase is definite. It's the song that I like to sing the most, even though there's no articles. And the reason is because when you use a comparative adjective like akthar, meaning more or most rather, or you know, what else? Akbar, meaning the biggest or bigger or the biggest. See, the word akbar, for example, if it means the biggest in English, notice that it's the biggest. It's already definite. So akbar, you don't really say il akbar. Like it's already, akbar is already the biggest. It's already defined in a way because there's only one biggest thing. So مثلا, in this case, أكثر أغنية بحب أغنيها, it's definite, like because أكثر, it's the most, right? So it's already the number one. It's already a specific one. So you don't need to mark it twice, like as definite with more articles or anything like that. An example that I gave recently to someone was the phrase آخر باص. آخر باص means the last bus. But there's no article, right? So you would think, why is it the last bus? Isn't it missing something? Actually, no, because آخر is, by the way, it's the comparative form of أخير. So أخير, like كتير, آخر, like أكتر. It's just that because of the hamza in the word أخير, it behaves a little bit differently. It looks a little bit differently, but آخر is like أكتر or أكبر. So كبير, أخير, أكبر, آخر. So anyway, آخر باص, you're talking about the last bus, the latest bus, the one at the very end. So it's already a specific kind of one. So آخر bus means the last bus, even though there's no article or anything. So this is similar. أكثر أغنية بحب أغنيها, the song that I like to sing the most. Yeah, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, but it's the أكثر that is making أغنية بحب أغنيها into a whole definite thing. So think about this whole thing as two parts. أكثر is here, and then here you have أغنية بحب أغنيها. So the reason there's no إلي is because أغنية بحب أغنيها by itself should not have إلي. So it's like basically the requirement for illi, the definiteness that is required for the use of illi, is not met by the phrase أغنية بحب أغنيها. It only becomes definite because of the use of akthar, which is kind of happening separately. Like there's like a nested phrase. There's the bigger phrase, which is definite because of akthar, and then there's a nested phrase inside أغنية بحب أغنيها, which is indefinite. So there's an indefinite phrase nested within a larger definite phrase with akthar. So that's why there's no illi, because the nested phrase, the nested indefinite phrase is indefinite. So there's no illi. But the broader phrase is definite because of akthar, the most. Yeah, that I had to like reflect on that a little bit. But it's interesting, isn't it? It's a bit complicated in a way. I mean, I probably overanalyzed it because It's probably not that deep. But anyway, the song he likes to sing the most is Dance Monkey. If you know Dance Monkey, it's an annoying song, but I mean, I don't know, whatever, why not? So the song that he likes to sing the most is Dance Monkey, and the reason is because لأنها مشهورة وكل الناس بتعرفها. So because it is famous, that's why he likes it. لأنها مشهورة, because it's famous. وكل الناس بتعرفها, and all the people, كل الناس, again, ناس feminine, بتعرفها. They feminine, they know it. ها, the song, أغنية. بتعرف الأغنية, بتعرفها. Okay. لما الناس تتجمع, when people gather, علي, actually, so على means on or to something, and this is not, it's tricky, the spelling, isn't it? But Ali is like a name, or like it can mean other things, but alay means to me, or in this case, itjamma means to congregate or to gather. So tijamma alay is like gather around me, gather on me, so to speak. Yeah, gather on me. I guess you can say that in English. So when people gather around me, أصير أغني, and I start to sing, بكون مستمتع, بكون مبسوط. I enjoy myself. By the way, this is kind of fusha actually. So mustamta is like enjoying. It's like an active participle, but this verb is really just used, like it's an active participle of a verb that is really only used in fusha. But I don't know, maybe because the kid is I mean, he seems smart, so it seems like he knows it's like an interview for Al Jazeera, so I don't know. Anyway, بكون مبسوط, I become happy. Well, I said, I wrote I become, but let's look at this bakun, because I was also just talking to someone about this. So, let's look at the various times that you can use the verb can. So can is in the past tense, right? In the present tense, you don't use it, right? So أنا أدريان, I am Adrian. There's no verb can, to be. So in the past, can. In the present, nothing. In the future, if you really want to say in the future, it actually should be راح يكون. It will be. So I don't know. بكرة الجو راح يكون حلو. حلو, sure. So tomorrow the weather راح يكون, it will be nice. So when do you actually use bakun? Sometimes I say it's kind of like it has a bit of a future meaning. That can be true. It can be true actually. بكرة الجو بيكون حلو. Yeah, but it's better to say راح يكون. However, another like time that bakun is used, or rather well, it depends on the conjugation. Anyway, the actual present tense of can is used is for habitual actions, habitual beings. So, for example, as I said, أنا باكل can mean I am eating, or I eat regularly. So with can, it works in a similar way, except I am amming. I don't know, it doesn't make sense. So again, I am eating أنا باكل, but just I am, that actual ongoing sense of to be there's no verb used. I am Adrian. There's just that am. There's nothing that is said there in Arabic. I am Adrian, just أنا أدريان. But so that's for the actual continuous meaning of the present tense. Like أنا باكل, I am eating. For this with can, you don't use it at all. But remember, there's another meaning. There's the habitual meaning, or sorry, there's the ongoing meaning, and then there's the habitual meaning, which is like I eat regularly, like أنا دايما باكل da da da. I always eat this. So with this habitual meaning, can be used in the present tense in this kind of way. So when people gather around me and I start singing, I am happy. So it's like a regular thing in a way. It's not that he's saying I'm happy right now, but rather when this thing happens, or I regularly am happy when this kind of thing is happening. So yeah, that is probably useful to clarify, because it is kind of tricky. But yeah, so can was, راح يكون will be. أنا Adrian, like 0, let's say, is for I am now. And you can't say بكون, possibly with like a near future meaning or with a habitual meaning in this kind of situation. But don't overuse it. Just be cautious because it is a little bit tricky, as I've just shown you, but worth mentioning. And I think we're almost at the end. Okay. بيعطوني بيعطوني الثقة في نفسي. So they give me, ثقة is confidence. في نفسي, in myself. نفس like self, so نفسي myself. So they give me confidence in myself. إني صوتي حلو. They give me confidence in myself that my voice is nice. Yeah. Okay. أنا بالصف الخامس. I'm in the 5th grade. صف is like a grade level or a class, you know. So أنا بالصف الخامس. I'm in the 5th grade. ما بخلي, I don't allow. خلى, to let or to allow. So I don't allow. ما بخلي الأغاني. I don't let the songs تأخذ. Actually, he says the as well. The تأخذ. I'm pretty sure because I didn't mark it. So I don't let the songs, take من دراساتي or دراستي. So I don't let songs take from my studies, so to speak, like, you know, I don't sacrifice my studies for my singing. بروح مع, and then he kind of skips to talking about something else. بروح مع أصدقائي نلعب بالصخور. I go with my friends, we play on the rocks. I say we play with the rocks. Well, because they are playing with the rocks, so in the video. And notice that I will be saying بنلعب because that's how I speak, but some people say بنلعب. So instead of ميم نون for احنا بنعرف, they say بنعرف, you know. So instead of mn, they say bn. Either is totally fine, but I'm not used to saying it this way, so it's not my accent, so to speak. So anyway, so I go with my friends and we play on the rocks. بنروح or منروح نركب على الخيل. So we go ride horses, or actually الخيل is like the horse, but the implication is horses in general. So we go ride horses. Actually, it's like in Spanish we say montar a caballo. It means riding on horse. Horse riding. So it's kind of like that. It's not one horse, but of course. So we go ride horses. بننبسط كتير or كثير. We have lots of fun. So انبسط is to have fun or to enjoy. So we have a lot of fun. البتراء أكثر مكان برتاح فيه وبحبه. Petra, again, this أكثر is being used like something. Like in Arabic, in English you say the place that I like the most, but in Arabic, أكثر مكان, the most place. But don't link أكثر with مكان itself. Just link it to the whole remaining of the place, remaining phrase. So مكان برتاح فيه وبحبه. It means that by itself means a place. مكان برتاح, a place that the illi is missing. It's actually the same kind of syntax as before. So المكان اللي برتاح فيه, the place that I feel comfortable in it. But if it's indefinite, a place, مكان برتاح فيه, it's still in English a place where I feel comfortable, but in Arabic the illi is not used because it's indefinite. This part of the phrase, مكان برتاح فيه وبحبه, a place where I feel comfortable in it and I love it. That part is indefinite. Why is it indefinite? And that's why there's no illi. Why is it indefinite? Because it has to be indefinite so that there's no double definiteness. Why? Because the required definiteness is provided by akthar. Because akthar is the most. So that's making the whole phrase definite. So the nested phrase can't also be definite because then it's double marking. Just the same way that I can't say the my house. The my house, it doesn't work because I'm marking definiteness twice. It's already a specific house, so why do I say the? So in general, in Arabic, as in English, you can't mark definiteness twice. So أكثر, that's already making the whole phrase definite. So the nested phrase must be indefinite. مكان برتاح فيه وبحبه. A place where I'm most comfortable, or where I am comfortable and I love it the most. So the most goes in the beginning, and that's what it does. I think I've belabored that point. لأنه, why is it the place that I like the most? لأنه الطبيعة تبعتها كثير حلوة. So because the nature, it's, well, so as you may know, تبع is like of or belonging to. It's an alternative way of showing possession. So I don't know. Yeah, so basically الطبيعة is nature. تبعت, belonging to her. Her, in this case, بطرة. So the nature belonging to her, it's like saying it's nature. The nature that like, it's not belonging in the sense of possession, but belonging in the sense of regarding, or like that kind of thing. So anyway, because its nature is very nice, let's say. Watch my video on possession if you want a better, explanation of that, because otherwise it's just going to be a 3-hour video. Okay, أبوي كان مرمم آثار. So مرمم is a restorer, like literally, this means antiquities restorer. So my father was an antiquities restorer. رمم means to restore something. It's not worth learning by itself, but مرمم, someone who does restoration. وتعلمت منه, and I learned from him. Again, recording check. Yes, we are recording. Okay, and I realized that I've been all the way over here on the screen, but I should be more here. Okay, دايما لما في إشي ما بعرفه, دايما always, literally always when, دايما لما, but it's like whenever. I mean, you can translate it as whenever in English. So دايما لما, whenever, في إشي, there is something, ما بعرفه, I don't know. And look, in English you can say something that I don't know. But in Arabic, it must be إشي ما بعرفه. It can't be إشي اللي ما بعرفه, because اللي is only used with something definite. And in this case, إشي is indefinite. So when there is something, I don't know. إشي ما بعرفه. يعني أثري بالبطرة. أثري. So here it's just added to إشي. So إشي أثري. It's just that he didn't repeat the إشي. So يعني أثري بالبطرة, like something archaeological in Petra. بيعلمني إياه. He teaches, or why don't I? Okay, I mistakenly translated this. What it's saying is, هو بيعلمني. He teaches me. So, اتعلم means to learn. علم means to teach. So هو بيعلمني. He teaches me. What? He teaches me إياه. So again, now you can watch my video on the object pronoun, which is this إياه part. إياه, which with whatever suffix, like it can be إياه, إياها, إياي, إياك. Basically, this is sort of like a little vessel or a little placeholder word, this إياه, that you can add a suffix to, just so that you don't have more than one suffix on a word, because you can't have that. So if he teaches it to me, the indirect object, so the recipient of the action, like in a kind of ultimate way. So I'm the one who is being taught, but the thing that he's teaching is that. So the person who in the end receives the action is the one that is attached to the verb. So بيعلمني, he teaches it to me, but then the it goes as a separate word. So إياه. So بيعلمني إياه. Or he gives it to me. بيعطيني إياه. ابعت لي, send me. ابعت, to, or send, from بعت, to send. ابعت لي, send to me. إياه. ابعت لي إياه, send it to me. And the إياه is always the thing on which the action is actually being done. I'm just receiving it, but the recipient goes connected to the verb. The thing that you are sending or teaching or whatever, that goes separately. Yeah, okay. فهو تقاعد. So he retired. اتقاعد means to retire. So فهو تقاعد وأنا صرت أتعلم. So he retired and I started to learn. Yeah, okay, so we're basically almost done. So أنا عايش, I live, I'm living, مع أمي or أمي, whichever. أنا عايش مع أمي وأبوي ومع إخواني وإخواتي. I live with my mother and my father and with my brothers and sisters. لما أنزل بالبتراء وأشتغل. So when I go down to Petra, أنزل, نزل to go down. So لما أنزل بالبتراء, so when I go down to Petra and I work. لما أستفيد مصاري, استفاد means to benefit or to gain. So it's a bit formal, I would say, this phrasing, to be honest. But again, that might just be, I mean, it might just be, maybe it's normal for, it could be like a dialectical thing, like in his speech, or it could actually be trying to be a little bit formal. That's how it seems to me. But I don't know. In any case, you do benefit. I mean, it completely makes sense, of course. I mean, it's, yeah. Anyway, when I earn money, let's say earn, in a way, it's kind of like that. Versus get money, right? When I earn money. Okay. لما أستفيد مصاري, when I earn money or when I gain money or whatever. أجيب أغراض لأساعد. So I bring, أغراض is like stuff, things, just things. There's not even a singular for it. It just means stuff. أغراض. أغراضي, my stuff, my crap, my things. أجيب أغراض لأساعد, to لا, or you know, that this can, I mean, you can say عشان أساعد, or you can just use لام. Yeah, but because lam has so many different uses, I encourage عشان to practice that. أجيب أغراض لأساعد أمي وأخواتي. So I bring stuff, I bring things to help my mother and sisters. حلمي إني أصير, my dream. حلم is dream. حلمي, my dream is that I أصير, become مشهور, famous, وفنان أغاني. My dream is that I become famous and a song artist, I guess, but like a singer, essentially. فنان أغاني, an artist of songs, a singer. Although the actual word for singer is مغني, but whatever, this is another way of saying it. Okay, خلاص. Yeah, that was interesting. That was longer than expected, but at the same time, I think we talked about some interesting things with the can, with the, took me a while to process it myself, but the أكثر, the thing that I like to do the most, the thing that I do the most. You have أكثر plus an indefinite kind of nested phrase. That was an interesting syntax. What else? Yeah, I mean, you can go back and review. But I will leave it at that. Otherwise, I have a lot of really exciting things in the works, which is also why I've been making kind of, you know, not too special videos, just because I've been really, really focusing on my work on Wiktionary, actually creating that dictionary of Palestinian Arabic, which is really something to get hyped for, I think, at least for me. So yeah, wish you the best of luck. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you request or would like to know or would like me to explain further, as usual. And otherwise, I will see you next time. Assalamu.